Mattress Warehouse knows that buying a mattress can be tough. With so many choices, where do you start? Introducing BedMatch, a patented diagnostic system that determines your pressure points and recommends the mattresses that are best for your individual sleep needs. And it's found only at Mattress Warehouse. Come try BedMatch at a Mattress Warehouse near you. Visit sleephappens.com for locations and get free next day delivery on select purchases.
Mattress Warehouse, sleephappens.com.
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change, like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir?
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Welcome into the Nuts. I'm Mike Palm. He's Amal Shaw. Amal, it's All-Star Week, and that means we've got a great menu of topics. We're not necessarily breaking down games, as there aren't a lot this week, but we're going to delve into some future markets and some different things that we haven't had a chance to cover since the Nuts started. Coming up in 10 minutes, we've got Robert Hayes from The Athletic. He hosts their football show, written some terrific articles, including articles about the Cowboys, Bucks, and the Bears that we want to ask him about. Tremendous weekend of sports, Amal, but let's start in Milwaukee last night with Game 3. This was your singular play for the weekend. You laid the 4 points with the Milwaukee Bucks, and
I got it at 3.5, actually.
3.5. I think it closed around 4.5. Never really in doubt after the first quarter.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I was more upset about the England loss than anything, because I cheer for the U.S. men's national team, and I have a feeling in my lifetime they're probably not going to hoist the World Cup. So England is kind of a pseudo team that I pull for. Was a big Steven Gerrard fan, and of course Frank Lampard. But watching them, the disappointment, I went to sleep, I wake up at halftime, I knew this thing was over. I mean, to me, this is one of those bets. We go back to that Clippers game 2 against the Mavericks. There was another one, I forgot which one it was in the postseason, similar to that. This was one of those plays, Mike, if you are a bettor, and this is why I'm not a fan of units, this is a game where you unload the clip and you sit there and you take your chances. You have Game 3 at home in a situation, and one of the things I pointed out, this was off air, I was talking to somebody about, you look at Game 2, Phoenix shoots 50% from the three-point arc. Milwaukee was terrible in terms of shooting the basketball, and they lost the game by 10 points. If you just kind of average it out to where the average and the balance would be, you expect Milwaukee to come out and play well, and they win by 20. They outscored them. When they were down 36-30, because I went back and looked at the play-by-play, they were down 36-30. They outscored them from that point forward by 26 points.
Yeah, a 10-point loss in Game 2. Phoenix shoots 50%. Milwaukee shoots 29% from beyond the arc in that game. As you mentioned, they've had Holiday on Chris Paul the last 2 games, 10 turnovers in the last 2 games. It seems to have made a little bit of difference. He only had 10 turnovers in his previous 5 playoff games.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to, this series, I said this to you the other day. I said, this series hasn't begun yet. Until we see a road team win, I still think it's going to be tough. I like Milwaukee. Obviously, not quite as much as I did in Game 3, but I still love the Bucks in Game number 4. I think they're going to still win this series.
Well, you thought that the bet over 5.5 games for the series was good at 155. It came down to about 135 after Phoenix won Game 2. Now you only need to get one more game out of the Bucks.
Well, I think they have a great chance. Giannis is playing particularly well. I don't know if anyone thought Giannis was going to perform at the level he has when you look at what he's been able to do after that injury that was catastrophic. Second consecutive game over 40 points, trying to chase down MJ of 4 consecutive games of 40 points or more in an NBA Finals. That's not going to be the key. The key is, again, Middleton and Drew Holiday. They've got to shoot the ball with some efficiency.
Giannis, with his 2 40-point games in the finals, now has more of them than Curry, Kobe, Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, Karl Malone, Kareem, and Wilt. There are only 6 players in NBA history that have 3 or more 40-point games in the finals. We love to play them all guesses. Let's play them all guesses right now. I'll give you 8 guesses to name the 6 players that have 3 or more 40-point games in the finals.
Jerry West?
He has 10 the most.
Jerry West?
Yes.
Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan has 6, the third most.
LeBron James?
Yes, the chosen one has 8, the second most. Now it might, a couple of these might get hard.
Well, you got to go back. You got to go back a while. I'm going to have to say, how many games do they have over 40?
One has 5, one has 4, one has 3.
Dwayne Wade?
No, he has 2. He
has 2. Okay. Boy, I'm going to say Elgin Baylor.
Elgin Baylor has 4.
Yeah.
Very good.
Got to go Celtics. Probably.
No, forget Celtics.
Boy, I'm trying to think.
Lakers. Think Lakers not that long ago.
I can't think of anybody besides Kobe.
Okay, Shaq has 5.
Oh, Shaq. How could I forget Shaq?
And
Absolutely.
then Rick Barry's pretty tough at 3.
Yeah, Rick Barry.
You wouldn't have gotten Rick Barry.
The Shaq one just you said Kobe and it completely threw me, and I stopped. I forgot about Shaq in the first three-peat. He was Finals MVP 3 times. Should have gotten that one.
Yeah. Let's look forward now as we go to game number 4. We see the line very similar. Bucks a 4.5-point favorite again at home in game 4, and the total similar again, sits at 220.5. This game landed right on 220.
Yeah, by the way, don't ask me about the total, Mike, okay? You know what, actually, it's a good fade. If I give you a total, take the opposite side, it's going to come through. But I like Milwaukee here. I'd probably look towards the money line. I think Phoenix will be competitive, but I still think Milwaukee wins this game. The 4.5 is a peculiar number. I think it's a little bit more difficult. But I think we go back to Phoenix, and I think Game 5 is going to have a lot of pressure on the Suns. And what's that going to be on? When's that next game? Because Wednesday night is game number 4, right?
Correct.
That surprised me a little bit.
Probably Wednesday, Friday, Sunday.
Okay.
This is the Nutside Mike Palm. He's Amal Shaw talking about the NBA Finals. Milwaukee Bucks draw within the game at 2-1, defending their home court last night. 4.5 the line now for game number 4 with a total of 220.5. Of course, the Major League Baseball All-Star game is Tuesday night, so we get the double break in between games 3 and number 4. Let's take a look at Finals MVP, Amal, as you've alluded to before. Chris Paul still the favorite at 240. Giannis now off these 240-point performances down to plus 205. And then after that, Booker at 14-1, 8 and 60-1. Our guy Middleton up to 100-1. Remember, he was just 5-1 when Giannis was hurt. Drew Holiday 150-1. And, of course, Mikal Bridges at 2,000-1 is an interesting choice.
Yeah, probably not even a high enough number there. But, to me, it's going to come down to who you think. Giannis, I think, still at plus 205. What's the series odds?
The series now is the Suns 265. You can get back plus 205. So it's the same
so
price.
Giannis, okay, I was just checking to make sure. I didn't know, I didn't know if we were going full NHL here, and they're going to give out some gravy like they did with Andrei Vasilevsky.
All right, Amal, let's talk about England, and let's start off with the Wimbledon finals because we left on Friday. You liked Ash Barty. I bet her straight in the match. You had better earlier before. And you had Djokovic minus what was
110.
the price?
I had him at 110 to win the tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. Both of them win. Not surprisingly.
No, not really. Novak with the experience and his he is going to go down as the greatest player of all time eventually. Right now, I still give the slight edge to Rogers just because of what he's been able to do at such a high level. And remember, he's Novak's I think 34 and Rogers 39. So that 5 years of advanced age, but. It's just unbelievable in Novak's dominance. He loses the first set in a tiebreaker to Berrettini. I am surprised he even got to a tiebreaker. And, sometimes with these guys, it's bad when you lose the first set because they become so focused. They're hyper-focused.
You always say that the first set doesn't matter a lot to a guy
it
like
doesn't.
That.
It really doesn't. He can throw that first set away, and then boom, Berrettini's got no shot.
Yeah, and so... Remember his first match of the tournament, he lost the first set and bet him after that, and then in the final lose the first set and bet him after that. You get him at half the odds.
I even sometimes even better.
Yeah.
There's an overreaction on the pricing, and but give him and Ash Barty credit. Both tremendous performances, especially Barty. Remember, she had to withdraw in the second round of the French Open against Magdalene Net. She bounces back, played a tremendous tournament, and takes care of business.
As we move forward to the U.S. Open next, how do you evaluate the women's side, assuming Osaka will be back?
It's interesting. I want to see her. You're going to have the tournament, I'm assuming, is going to go in Canada. And then, of course, as you have tune-up tournaments in the States. Let's see how they go. And depending on how they play there, you get a gauge on. I think it's going to be pretty wide open. Should be very competitive. Should be a lot of fun. The hard courts really, you get, in my opinion, some of the best tennis.
We talked a lot about the Euros over the past month.
Yeah.
And, of course, we got the conclusion of it yesterday at noon Pacific here from Wembley. England scores early. Luke Shaw in the second minute. They take a 1-0 lead, and then they park the bus in the first half. Italy ties it, and then just an epic fail in penalty kicks as England missed their last three. 3 substitutions that Gareth Southmore puts in the game to take kicks cold. They all 3 fail, and Italy gets the cup.
Yeah, listen, the other 2 at least were saves.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the bad one was Marcus Rashford because Rashford is a penalty kick taker himself during the Premier League. He comes up, just go up there and take it. When you look at, I always think of Didier Drogba with Chelsea when he comes up there against Manuel Neuer in the Champions League final. Just gets up there and takes it low hard to the corner. That first kick that Harry Kane took, there was nobody in the world stopping that one. Maguire's kick, nobody in the world was stopping that kick. I mean, those are the types of penalty kicks you want. Rashford coming up there dancing, just go up there and just hit the ball, and he hits the post, and that was it. I'm telling you, if that Rashford goal goes in, Mike, I feel like the result on the next two might have been different. But I thought the real mistake was Garrett Southgate. When they had the 1-0 lead, you mentioned parking the bus. I haven't seen the team park a bus for 87 minutes, but give England credit. They tried to park it for the entirety of the match, and it was unbelievable. You had the better team. You should have been more aggressive. Even if you give up a goal, you're still level. You can't go throw something like that away.
How does Raheem Sterling not get one of those 5 kicks?
I have no idea, because remember, if De Bruyne's not taking it for Manchester City, you usually see Raheem Sterling as the guy that takes it for those guys. Really surprising not to see him not taking. By the way, the one thing is I like Sterling. He's got tremendous speed, but my God, this guy's got to stop acting like he gets hits by sniper fire every time.
All right, this time we're going to welcome in Robert Mays from The Athletic. He hosts their football show and, of course, writes for that terrific magazine with our friend Michael Lombardi as well. Robert, you wrote an article about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and this rare feat that they've accomplished in a Super Bowl champion, bringing back all 22 of its starters. They did some magic with the salary cap. Of course, Tom Brady helped out with that. We've been previewing all of these 32 teams, as most of the shows here at VSiN will do. Are we really just wasting our time? Should Tampa be the prohibitive favorite to repeat this year?
I think that they should probably be the favorite solely because it stands out even more that they brought all those guys back because the cap went down. So as other teams, for the most part, had to trim salary and didn't get notably better in a lot of ways, I think the Chiefs probably did if you look at what they did along the offensive line. But, they still have a pretty big hole at their second receiver spot. The Saints were arguably the most talented team in the league for several years when you looked at the depth and quality of their roster. They had to trim a lot of guys. The Bills, for the most part, stood pat and didn't really add a ton. So I think that's what really stands out, is that most teams got worse solely because of the financial restrictions that were placed on them this year. The Bucs decided, we're going to kick the can down the road. We're going to do a lot of salary cap gymnastics we're not used to, and we're going to try to bring back every piece that we possibly can. And I think that's what makes them the favorites. But we know this. It's really, really hard to win 2 in a row. And the reason that it's hard to win 2 in a row is that you need so many things to go your way. Think about the Chiefs and how they looked like an absolute dynasty coming into their second year after winning the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes. But injuries take hold, and I think that's the biggest thing with the Bucs is that even if they bring back all these guys, I believe, according to Football Outsiders, adjusted games lost, the great metric that I love looking at every year, they were the healthiest team in the NFL. That is not likely to happen again. So there are just so many different pieces that have to go your way for this to happen, even if you have the right guys on the roster.
Robert, I love the assessment you gave of Tampa, but can you get the inept coaching that they received by their opponents in every game in the postseason? It seemed like, the decision by LaFleur to throw the ball on that screen pass was critical. Then we see Andy Reid on that 3rd down and 1 call the timeout, leads to a touchdown. I thought, even though they didn't play particularly well throughout the course of the season, everything you mentioned, the injuries, everything broke well for them, particularly in the postseason.
Yeah, I think that you always need those sorts of things. You need a mistake on the other end. But I do think that the Bucs were playing their best football down the stretch. I think they absolutely found a recipe that worked for them offensively. They really settled into a different version of themselves after the bye week when they really said, all right, what does Tom Brady like to do? What can we do more of? Really using a ton of 2 tight end sets, a lot of play action. He really had control of that offense down the stretch, and you could see that. I also think Byron Leftwich did a really good job. And I think defensively, they really settled into a different version of themselves. They're playing more aggressive man coverage and leaning on their secondary. So I think that the best version of the Bucs is the one that we saw over the last 6 weeks. And if we see that group again for an entire 7-week regular season, then they could be really, really good, especially compared to an NFC that I think is pretty down overall.
We're talking with Robert Mays, who, of course, writes for The Athletic and hosts their football show. You can find him on Twitter at Robert Mays. Robert, when you look at the Bucs' path to the Super Bowl last year to the NFC, the Saints lose Breeze. He retires. Aaron Rodgers really doesn't even want to play in Green Bay again. But my partner feels that the acquisition of Matthew Stafford to Southern California, the Rams should already be planning their ticker tape parade down Georgia Frontiere Boulevard. Does the NFC come down to the Bucs and the Rams in your estimation?
Not if Aaron Rodgers is playing. I think that the Rams offense will probably be better with Matthew Stafford. I think it definitely will be better with Matthew Stafford. And I do like some of the additions they made just in terms of the skill set and the fact that they have Deshaun Jackson there and Tutu Atwell. They did not have much speed on that offense over the last couple of years. And I think that, combined with some of the hesitation about Jared Goff, really stripped that team of any ability to throw the ball down the field. That will return with Matthew Stafford. But their defense is not going to be as good as it was last year, I think, for several different reasons. One, simple regression. When you have a team that is that much better on defense from one year to the next, they're almost destined to drop off. Even if Brandon Staley was still there, even if they didn't lose a guy like John Johnson, I still believe they probably wouldn't be the best defense in the NFL comfortably like they were last year. But then you consider all those other factors. They do lose a guy like John Johnson, who was extremely important to what they did. They lose Troy Hill in free agency. And then they lose Brandon Staley. Now you have Raheem Morris coming in there. It's another changeover in the staff. I think they'll still be good defensively, but let's say they're the seventh best defense in the league instead of the best. That's a huge bit of slack that the offense needs to pick up. I think they're a playoff team, but I'm not necessarily penciling them in as the second best team in the NFC like some others are.
Robert, I want to ask you about the AFC and this Tennessee Titans team adding Julio Jones. I think it's a huge difference maker. You already have the 18-wheeler back there with Derrick Henry. I love the way Mike Vrabel coaches this team. How dangerous, in your opinion, can they be? Because everyone obviously talks about Kansas City, Buffalo, and even potentially the Colts with Carson Wentz coming in with Frank Reich. How do you see Tennessee doing this year?
I think it's a really big question, and for similar reasons. There's a chance that team, it slips back a little bit in the same way the Rams defense might. There's a chance that we've seen the best version of that Tennessee offense. You consider all of the work that Derrick Henry has gotten over the last couple of years, and he's stayed remarkably healthy. If he misses any time, what does that offense look like? If Julio Jones gets banged up at all, that's happened over the last couple of years, then you're back to Josh Reynolds being the second best receiver on that team. They are not nearly as deep a tight end as they used to be with Jonnu Smith leaving. So this is what happens. When you have to start paying guys, it's harder to retain all of the talent that you want to offensively, and they lost Arthur Smith. He did such a good job over the last couple seasons in constructing that offense around the skill sets and strengths of guys like Tannehill, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry. And even if you're optimistic about Todd Downing, which I am, I think that he'll do a good job. He had a huge hand in the red zone and third down work, which they were very good in both areas over the last couple of years. But I still think if we're talking about a fall from being the second or third most efficient offense in the league over the last two seasons to 10th, I'm not sure that defense can pick up that slack. I don't think they added enough. I don't think the changes they've made necessarily make them better. So to me, even with Julio Jones being there, it's kind of hard to make the argument that this Titans team is any better than the one that we would have seen over the last couple seasons.
Robert, you're a native Chicagoan, and we're so excited on draft night that the Bears wound up getting Justin Fields. There's a very interesting prop out there of who will be the Bears' Week 1 starting quarterback. You can get Fields at plus $3. Andy Dalton, the favorite, at minus $5 right now. Talk to me about the effect you think Fields will have on this franchise. And is there a possibility that Nagy starts him in Week 1?
I have such a hard time pinning down that situation. I was at the O-line Masterminds clinic this weekend in Dallas, and we were talking about it, what goes into it, and what they'll end up doing. And I think that you could see this two different ways, right? You could see the aggression for Fields as a sign that this regime, the front office and the coaching staff, has to win right now. Like, it is time. They have to make this thing happen very quick and turn this thing around for people to keep their jobs. I also can see an argument that they're going to give them time to see this Fields thing through. The fact that Matt Nagy had such a hand in drafting him, he was almost the hand-picked option for Nagy among this group. Are they going to give them a couple years to figure that out? If the slack is there and they have time and space to see this thing through, then maybe they don't need to throw him out there in Week 1. But I could see the argument going either way. I still think Andy Dalton will be the Week 1 starter, because if you look back at a lot of these situations, even the guys that came in and eventually did start as rookies, they didn't start in Week 1. Justin Herbert only played because of the Tyrod Taylor injury. Even Deshaun Watson wasn't the Week 1 starter for Houston during his rookie year. I don't believe that Josh Allen was. So these guys that came in and eventually were successful, and even came in during their rookie year and showed some flashes, Baker Mayfield is another example, they weren't the Week 1 starter. So I think when you consider the history, when you consider all of the factors, when you consider what Nagy has said, I still believe Andy Dalton will probably be the guy who starts the season for the Bears. How long he's the starter, that's hard to say.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. It's going to be a big question mark. But with the pressure that's surrounding Pace and Nagy, would they be more likely to make a change simply because you got to go? I mean, the red rifle is not your long-term answer. I feel like if you're the Bears, you start Justin Fields and throw him into the mix. I mean, we see so many young guys. You referenced Herbert because the injury to Taylor. What is there really to lose? I think the long-term upside, and I just think the mental engagement of the team becomes better.
I think that's absolutely something that you have to take into consideration. I think when you're looking at the locker room and really getting the locker room and feeling that you have the locker room and getting everybody excited, I think that does matter. And I think it's two different things. I'm of the mind that the guy should be out there as soon as he's ready to play. If you don't think him playing will actively deter from his development, then it's worth him being on the field because that's the only way you can learn. But with Nagy, you have somebody who had a front row seat to what happened with Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith in Kansas City. And I could absolutely understand that the long-term development of this guy is all that matters, and sometimes sitting can be beneficial in one way or the other. So I'm throwing up my hands with this. I could see it going either way. I understand the arguments on both sides, and I really have no inside information in either way for what might happen.
Robert, we appreciate the time this morning. Terrific information.
No worries, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love what he said about... Go ahead,
Respond to his comment that the defense for the Rams will regress.
Yeah, that's fair, but here's the one thing that I don't think is being taken into consideration. This offense is going to be appreciably better. And, he mentioned Tutu Atwell, and I forgot who else he referenced over there, but don't forget, it doesn't include Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. This is a dynamic duo that somehow goes under the radar despite the fact that they play in Los Angeles. I think they're going to be dangerous. When you have an offense that's not going 3 and out every time, do you know how much it makes your defense better when you actually have the ability to rest?
We didn't get a chance to ask him about the other article he wrote about the lack of coverage of the Cowboys this year and how they're sort of flying under the radar.
I don't think they're flying under the radar. I just think the fact that the sports world is not traveling. Give it a week and a half. Training camp opens up July 20th in Oxnard. It'll be an absolute buzzsaw around them.
I think the fact that the division is so mediocre hurts as well.
They've been mediocre for about two and a half decades, and they still get buzz.
All right, coming up next, we're going to preview the division races in the American League.
Good afternoon. Would you like to try a free sample of our double fudge brownie?
Oh, sure. That's very good. I'll just take one more, just to be sure. Yep, still very good.
Some things never change, like never being able to take just one free sample. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Is that macadamia nut I taste? Let me take one more.
Sir?
Yeah, I thought so.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Is that Shakespeare?
Nope, it's Geico.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare from one of his unpublished works. Oh, it be not for awakening. Nay, giveth thou the berries. For 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Nope, it's from Geico, because they help save people money.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but Geico got it from Shakespeare.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Welcome back into the Nuts. He's Amal Shaw, and I'm Mike Palm. We're going to take some time today, Amal, to look at the races in each of the 6 divisions in baseball, and we're going to start in this segment with the American League. Let's start in the American League East, which is, in fact, the most tightly contested race so far of the 6, where the Red Sox, who lost 2 in a row to the Phillies over the weekend, lead the Tampa Bay Rays by a game and a half. Blue Jays and Yankees both 8 back. We don't need to talk about the Orioles. Red Sox right now, $1.29 favorite. The Rays, plus 130. Blue Jays are 11-1, and the Yankees are 12-1.
Yeah, I think this is a tough bet either way. I think this one could go either way from the top between Boston and Tampa. No interest in the Yankees or the Blue Jays. But when you look at the odds, it's not a bad long shot when you realize they're going to have a ton of games within the division if you like Toronto or if you like the Yankees.
I want to bet Toronto here, actually. But I keep thinking about what Josh Towers said about never really playing in your home park and having Buffalo as your home. They were in Dundee. Josh had an interesting tweet yesterday. He said, "Why are the Rays a dog at home?" He better put some respect on Robbie Ray's name, okay? Come on. 7 innings of one-hit ball again yesterday. 3-1, Blue Jays.
Exactly. By the way, if you like the Yankees, they still have 18 games remaining against the Red Sox and the Rays.
Oh, those will be some long games. You know what's a shame now? They've 3 times in a week have blown big leads in the 9th inning. I mean, they're both, and Chapman's going to the All-Star game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why he's going to the All-Star game, but it's really a bad one yesterday. Altuve hits the 3-run homer for the Stros. They win that game. Those are the type of games you got to get. When you've got that lead going into the 9th inning, you can't let those go away because you know how well Tampa and Boston in front of you are playing. And even Toronto could be a challenger as well. But I give the Yankees an edge over Toronto because they will still make an acquisition potentially by the trade deadline to help them out.
Amidst so many storylines in sports this weekend, what might have gotten overlooked was Garrett Cole's performance on Saturday.
Yeah, tremendous job in that game against Zach Greinke. He was impressive.
He was sick 2 days before. They didn't even think he was going to make the start, let alone throw 132 pitches, a complete game, the most pitches thrown in Major League Baseball this year to win 1-0.
Well, I mean, you have to realize most guys get pulled by the 5th inning, so you can't probably.
Greinke only went 4 and a third in that game.
That's exactly my point.
Gave up 1 run. So the homer to Judge, who mocked Altuve as he rounded third base with the "Don't tear off my jersey."
Yeah, 65. I still remember that. It's so bad. I mean, 65 pitches for Greinke in that one. Only 34 strikes though. Garrett Cole, very impressive job. Now, can he do it when it matters, when he's going up against the Scherzer, DeGrom, Walker Buehler, one of those guys? I know you love Zach Greinke, but he's not in that same area code.
How about Scherzer blowing the 8-0 lead the other night?
Guy had one bad outing in 9 years, and you want to jump on him. Give me a break.
I'm just saying of things that are unbelievable.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
Let's move on to the AL Central, Amal, where the White Sox are minus 2,000 to win this division. The Indians are a long-distance phone call back in second at 8 games back at plus 7-1. Tigers, Royals, and Twins, no discrimination here. They're all 100-1 at DraftKings.
Yeah, you know what? The Indians pitching right now, seeing 7-1, maybe not a bad shot just simply because they're going to have some opportunities. This is a weak division. And if you make up some ground against those weak opponents and then you knock off the White Sox when you have some chances, I think you can make a potential push if you're the Cleveland Indians. But otherwise, no way you can bet the White Sox at this price. That's absurd.
Yeah, that is absurd. I like the fact that the White Sox do really throw out a starting 5 rotation, though. Although, our friend Wave Krivsky told us if you take Cease's numbers out against the Tigers, he's terrible. He had a little bit of a rough outing. Giolito got back on a winning track in Baltimore on Saturday. All right, and then let's move on to the AL West, where, I don't know, is this still your pick to come out of the American League, the Astros, or are you leaning to the White Sox right now?
I am looking at the White Sox.
Yeah.
I think the Astros win this division. But, when I said the Astros, I liked them because they were 13-1. I think the White Sox still, to me, I like this team a little bit more. The pitching is good. When you look at this Houston team, which guy do you sit there and say, hey, I want to give the ball to him, and I'm confident when he takes it? Zach Greinke, what's he going to give you, 4 innings? Zach Greinke was the king of being paid like a number one who always went 6 innings.
Yeah, he is the guy, though, in a one-game format. Is it Urquidy? I don't think it's Urquidy.
Framber Valdez?
Valdez has been good, although he got
rocked. Yeah.
The A's sit here 3.5 back there, plus 4-1. I think they still probably will get in as a wild card. Interesting, the price on the Mariners, 27-1. They're only 7 games back.
Yeah, but I mean, look, if you want to play it in terms of the term that's overused at this network, value. Yes, exactly. I always sit there and say the value is in who wins. Do you believe the Mariners can be, when you look at it, they've played 91 games? Over the next 71 games, can they be better than Houston by 8 games?
Up next, we're going to take a look at them all in the Palm Reader playbook. I don't know how many plays we're going to have. There's not many games going on. But over the weekend, between the two of us, we went 7-1-2. And you had a perfect record.
Nice job by you going 6-1.
6-1-2.
Yep.
Well, I had Nola first 5. We have a VSiN subscriber exclusive this Tuesday. Long Shots host Brady Cannon and Wes Reynolds will be answering your golf betting questions live, just in time for the Open Championship. They will be live Tuesday at 3:15 p.m. Eastern. That's 12:15 p.m. Pacific for a subscriber-only Q&A session. Subscribers will have access to watch live and ask questions, or you can email your questions ahead of time to questions@vsin.com. Watch for the link in your subscriber email and join Brady and Wes for all the golf betting insights this Tuesday. I always said we should have call-in show here. The Nuts. We could take
I don't
calls.
think the Frenchman likes that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. This is the Nuts. I'm Mike Palm, and he's Amal Shaw. Remember when we used to do...
We actually had the best call-in show here. It was called The Cover 2. David Moulton and I used to do.
Really?
It was a simulcast between ESPN, you, and VSiN. Probably got too much of a rating, so they canceled it.
I never heard of it.
Oh, because we don't publicize anything here but the Ron Flatter Racing Pod.
No read today. The Ron Flatter Racing Pod will be out later this week.
Is there any races until next year?
Let's move on to the National League. Amal, we previewed the American League. I want to start in the NL Central because I have a bet that I'm going to make here today. The Brewers currently have a 4-game lead now over the Reds. The Brewers won the opening game in that series in Milwaukee, and then the Reds closed out the last three to pull back within 4 games. They were all low-scoring, tight games. And the Reds right now at plus 5-1. The Brewers, you see, according to DraftKings, at minus 670. Cubs and Cardinals are both 16-1, and the Pirates long out of it at 500-1. Cubs and Cards 8 games out currently. I like the Reds here. I'm going to make a bet at 5-1. I bet the Reds to win the National League last year. I got them into the playoffs, and then they couldn't score any runs in Atlanta. But I don't like the Brewers. I'm going to fade the Brewers. I don't think they hit enough.
I agree with you completely. I think the offense for Milwaukee is a big question mark. You look at Cincinnati, just 4 games back. They were 7 going into Friday, and then they were able to overcome that, and they did a tremendous job pitching. Look at how much they limited the Milwaukee offense. Also, to me, I wouldn't take a look at the Cubs here, but how about the Cardinals? If they can get it going a little bit offensively, they've got a chance. I think this is probably the one division race where you have a team 8 games back that can actually make a push because of the inconsistency with the team at the top.
Yeah, I think it's a weak division.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's a lot of strength there. Like we said, every team, when we had Adnan Virk on, every team has a mortal flaw in this division.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Milwaukee's inability to hit consistently. I think that's going to be a problem for them down the stretch. And they play in a hitter-friendly park, and Miller still have not been able to get it done consistently.
You know, when we talk about the Reds rotation, Garcia's been lights out. Luis Garcia, who had the worst ROI in baseball through the first 2 months. They still haven't got a lot out of Sonny Gray. But Molly and Miley have been good at the bottom part of the rotation. That's where I favor them over the...
Great.
I favor them now. 9 of 10 starts with 2 earned runs or less. He went 8 and didn't give up a run in Milwaukee the other night. This is where I favor them over. I understand that you've got Woodruff. I think Burns outpitched his real ability in the first half. Peralta's very good, but then 4 and 5, Milwaukee doesn't have a lot of answers.
Oh, not only that, the other thing is I think Milwaukee, you can pitch well, but at some point in time, particularly in July and August, you've got to be able to score some runs with the weather being warmer. I think Cincinnati's very dangerous. We've seen what they've been able to do so far offensively this year. Castellanos, has been tearing the cover off the baseball. So I think this team is extremely dangerous.
Yeah, and he's been hitting in key spots. All right, let's move to the the NL East, where the Mets continue to have the lead in this division. They're up 3.5 on the Phillies at the break, 4 on the Braves, 6 on the Nats, only 9 on the Marlins. And we take a look at the odds. The Mets favored minus 286. The Braves, who are actually in third place, are the second choice at plus 650. The Phils plus $7. The Nats plus 750. And the Marlins, who I said are 9 games out, are 40-1.
I don't like the Braves as much with the Acuna injury. I think that's a huge blow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Impacts them in a profound way. Philadelphia, I still think, is very dangerous. Washington Nationals also a team that could be pretty dangerous. I think this is a wide-open race. The Mets' lack of consistency in terms of scoring, and when you look at it, yes, Walker has pitched well and Stroman has pitched effectively. I don't think those guys – I like Walker more than I do Stroman. I'm not convinced that Stroman can be a guy that leads you down the primrose path into the postseason along with DeGrom and Walker. So they've got to find a way to get some consistency. Michael Conforto really struggling to hit the baseball. He's a guy that when you look at him a couple of years ago, this was probably arguably their best offensive hitter. And now you've got a situation where they have no consistency.
I think the problem is Lindor, though. They signed this big contract. He's still not hitting the ball. He's making errors in the field. If he'd have played just to 80% of what he did in the productivity in Cleveland, this team would be running away with this division.
Yeah, I would agree with you. You'd probably be looking, instead of a 3.5-game lead right now, you'd probably be looking at a team with about a 7-game lead because he has the ability with his offensive prowess and defensively to be able to carry you. They've got to get on track. Still a 4-game lead in the loss column, which bodes well for them. And they're looking at a scenario where they are technically 1 game in hand over the Phillies. So all these things, I know it's minuscule at this point in time, but it'll matter down the stretch.
How concerned are you about DeGrom's health in terms of when you look at making a bet on the Mets here?
I think it's a great question, and I think it's a big concern because the one problem has always been the lack of ability in terms of pitching deep into games. You know, he's been terrific, and I was looking at his stats comparing him to Gooden in '85. You know, Gooden went like about 8 innings per game at that stretch. I forgot, like 16 complete games or something, 8 shutouts. I mean, DeGrom's going to need a 7-inning doubleheader to get a complete game shutout. And he's the best pitcher in baseball right now, but the fact is that lack of consistency from an injury standpoint is a concern.
We're looking at the Cy Young odds right now for the National League here. The only name on this list that I have any interest in at all is Kevin Gausman.
Absolutely.
At 15-1. And when we talk about the NL West, where we're heading next, and you look at the fact that the Dodgers still trail the Giants here in this division by 2 games, but are still favored by -305. You know, when you think about if Bauer doesn't come back, and we don't know what the situation is going to be. They extended the administrative leave another week. I mean, you're really looking at Buehler and Kershaw as the big 2 for the Dodgers. It's been who? Darvish and Snell, and Musgrove for San Diego. I mean, to me, Gausman and DeSclafani have been the best 2 pitchers in the division.
Yeah, I just don't know. I trust Gausman. I don't know if I necessarily trust DeSclafani into the postseason or into late September, but the Giants, give them credit. Once again, still finding ways. 4-game winning streak into the All-Star break, 2.5-game lead over the Dodgers. This team is extremely dangerous. And, you know, when you look at some of the nucleus, Posey, obviously, he just went on the injured list with a thumb issue. Brandon Crawford, and then, of course, Brandon Belt. This team's got a couple of the pieces that they had from their great run. This team can be still extremely dangerous.
I look at this weekend as being pretty telling in that division. You know, the Nationals went down to Petco and banged the ball all over the yard for 4 games. They went up to San Francisco, couldn't score. And if you're San Diego, are you concerned about losing 2 games to the Rockies, the worst road team in baseball?
You know, normally I would say yes on the surface, but in baseball over the course of 162, you're going to have a couple of hiccups along the way. I mean, the Dodgers lost, 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks this weekend. So, you know, those things happen over the course of a season. I don't think it's anything to be alarmed about. Still, San Diego at 53-40 overall this year, very impressive. The key for them is that, you know, that postseason, they got to get out of that wild card spot if they can catch the Giants.
Will 3 teams come out of this division, a winner and both wild cards?
Absolutely.
Any value here do you see? Do you think the Giants can hang on at plus 350, or the Dodgers to win it at -$3 offers a bet for you?
No, I think the plus 350 and the Giants has to be the play right now. 2-game lead, an opportunity team has played extremely well, and you're going to have some opportunities to hedge off if this thing gets even a little bit more out in front with the Giants.
All right, when we come back, we're going to continue our preview of the NFL teams. We're going to the AFC South, and we'll start with the Indianapolis Colts.
To show you how easy it is to file a claim with Geico, we hired a soap opera star.
Gracious me, my car has storm damage and I've had to file a claim. Could it possibly get worse? Will my claims team leave me for someone else? Someone less intense?
No. Actually, when you file a claim with Geico, you get your own dedicated claims team who promises to stay with you throughout the process.
Oh, I've never known such loyalty. I can't wait for the 2nd season.
Geico. Great service without all the drama.
Hey everyone, this is your favorite Dominicana, your girl, Amara La Negra, the host of the new podcast, Exactly Amara, part of iHeartRadio's My Cultura podcast network. You may know me from my music, my style, and the reality show, of course, Love and Hip Hop Miami. Well, guess what? I've got my own weekly podcast now. Join me and my co-host, Stevie Nunez, every Thursday on Exactly Amara for some caliente conversations. I've got a lot of sazon and a lot to say, and I'm spilling the tea, mi amor. I'm spilling it all. Stevie and I explore topics like dating, sex, relationships, how I went from being homeless to a businesswoman, mi vida as an Afro-Latina, and everything in between. In each episode, you'll get to know who I am, my ups, my downs, y las cosas que me emocionan de verdad. Así que listen to Exactly Amara on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you're looking for a hot tip to bet on, BetRivers Sportsbook has you covered every day. Go to the BetRivers app or betrivers.com and find the game you want to bet on. Tap tips and you'll get instant research for the upcoming matchup. Try it out for baseball, soccer, tennis, and a variety of other sports. And to make your experience even more rewarding, BetRivers offers the most live streams of major sports, instant payouts, and only one-time playthrough. BetRivers, your hometown sportsbook. Offer valid in Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Virginia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Available at PlaySugarHouse.com in New Jersey. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Illinois, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Colorado, 1-800-522-4700. Michigan, 1-800-270-7117. Virginia, 1-888-532-3500. In Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Welcome back into the Nuts. I'm Mike Palm. He's Amal Shaw, and we're going to start out with our preview of the AFC South. Amal, really, the AFC South and the NFC West are the two divisions where you have a co-favorite. Rams and 49ers in the West. And then here in the AFC South, the favoritism has really gone back and forth between the Colts and the Titans. We see the Colts just a tick shorter price than the Titans right now at plus 105 to win the division. The Titans are plus 110. Your boy Urban Meyer's Jaguars are plus $8. And the Texans, who we don't know who will be at quarterback, but we do know who will be the coach at 28-1.
You know, look, I think Urban's going to do a terrific job there, but I think it's a little bit overreaching here with the respect. This is a team that won, one football game last year? I mean, they had the
8-1.
Yeah, 8-1.
Two good teams in the division.
Yeah, it's exactly. You got two potential playoff teams there with the Colts and the Titans. I favor the Tennessee Titans with the acquisition of Julio Jones. I think that makes A.J. Brown a better receiver. You have an elite level receiver. In my money, still probably the second best receiver in the National Football League behind DeAndre Hopkins. I love what Julio Jones can do. I think he's going to make Tannehill better. I also think he's going to make the 18-wheeler Derrick Henry even better, because now you've got a legitimate 1 and 2 in terms of threats to catch the football.
Who's the best coach in the division?
Mike Vrabel.
Better than Urban Meyer.
Yeah, Urban Meyer's never coached an NFL game.
Interesting.
Well, hold on.
I think it's an interesting choice.
Look, I'm not particularly a Vrabel fan, despite the fact that he's a Buckeye. I think he does a tremendous job of having his team prepared. He seems to be very detail-oriented, kind of like Belichick is. Frank Reich, I have some questions about still. The fact that they made a decision to go with Phillip Rivers, that was my first question about him. And then when you look at Urban, he might do a terrific job there. But again, they're taking over a situation where there's still a lot of improvement to be done.
Well, we'll see if he can rebuild that program like what he did at Ohio State. Because Amal, when he arrived at Ohio State and since, the Big Ten has not been competitive.
No, it truly hasn't. Remember his first year, he went undefeated after a 6 and 7 year under Luke Fickell, and they were not eligible for they would have played Notre Dame.
Yes, they would have. It's really amazing what he did there. For all he did at Florida, what he did at Ohio State was that much better. All right, let's take a look at the Colts specifically. Their odds to win the Super Bowl are 25-1, to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl 12-1. As we mentioned, they are the slight favorite to win the South at plus 105. Your win total, Amal, is 10. 17-game season with 9 home games. The over gets the plus price here, plus 115. You have to lay almost 140 if you think they're going to go under 10. To make the playoffs, a favorite as well, minus 182, and to miss the playoffs, plus 149.
I'm going over.
You're going over 10. You think this is an 11-6 or better team?
Well, not only that, remember the 10 works as a tie for me, as a push. When you look at this, Mike, worst case scenario, they should be 4-2, 5-1 realistic, and a great scenario of 6-0 in the division. Then, outside in the other 11 games, you got to figure out a way to win 4 games.
The worst case scenario, I think, is 4-2. Very worst case scenario.
I think Jacksonville could potentially get them. Yeah. I think Houston, unless they see Deshaun Watson, even if Deshaun Watson is there, won't make a difference, in my opinion.
Let's take a look at their schedule now and look at when they're out of division games. They get the Seahawks and the Rams at home. They travel to play the Dolphins. They travel to play the Ravens. They travel to play the 49ers. Jets at home. At Bills, a tough game. They get the Bucs at home. Patriots I think this is important. They get the Patriots at home instead of going to Foxborough. They do go to Arizona, the Raiders at home.
Yeah, I think when you look at it on paper, the schedule looks extremely tough. You look at it, the 49ers, the Rams at home, Seattle at home. But at the Ravens, there's probably some losses in there. But big picture-wise, okay, Buffalo, Tampa, San Francisco, the Rams, and the Ravens. Outside of that, the rest of these games, again, with the exception of the game against Tennessee on the road, they're going to be favored in the rest of them.
I think interesting first 2 weeks for them at home.
I like them against Seattle.
You get those two NFC West teams.
Well, I like them a lot against Seattle. I think the Rams going to be a tougher matchup. Seattle, to me, still has some question marks of consistency. This Colts team should be pretty good. And you know what? It's a big prove-it year for Carson Wentz. I mean, now you got Frank Reich back in the mix. Remember, he was the offensive coordinator when he had that successful season. They went to the Super Bowl. He had gotten injured. Nick Foles takes over. So we'll see what he's able to do going forward with this team.
Amal, my play here is to make the playoffs, and I know I have to lay the price at minus 182. But when I look at the AFC, I think you have Chiefs in the West. Chargers are a wild card team. Yeah. I think when you look at the AFC North, I'm not big on Pittsburgh. I don't think they make the playoffs here. I think they continue to regress. So you got Baltimore, Cleveland, one wins, one's a wild card team. I think you only get one team, Buffalo, out of the East. And then I think here it's Titans, Colts, one wins and one's a wild card team. So I think they have to be a pretty prohibitive favorite to make the playoffs.
I like that selection. I think that's a really good one. I just didn't want to lay the 182 because I think this team has a chance to be extremely dangerous in terms of where they're at. I think they're going to be a really good team overall.
All right, let's take a look at the individual awards for the Colts, the coach and the players. Frank Reich to be Coach of the Year is 16-1. Carson Wentz to be the MVP, 40-1. To be the Offensive Player of the Year is 60-1. To be the Comeback Player of the Year is 9-1.
Yeah, I don't understand why if you're going to be Offensive Player of the Year, you're probably not going to win MVP. I mean, especially if you're a quarterback. So you have to take the 60-1 if you're going to take it instead of the MVP. I'll tell you what, Jonathan Taylor, I'm surprised he's only 20-1 because he's a running back, but he had an outstanding rookie year. He got off to a little bit of a slow start, and then he found himself. Mike, when you look at it, people don't realize this guy led the NCAA in rushing in his 3 years, had the most yards accumulated at Wisconsin over a 3-year career. He has been tremendous. I look at this team. You get, obviously, Pittman, Hilton, Paris Campbell healthy. They're going to be dangerous. They've got a tremendous offensive line. If Carson Wentz can be accurate, this team is going to be really tough offensively.
Let's take a look at the defensive players for those awards. Darius Leonard, Defensive Player of the Year, is 33-1. DeForest Buckner, Defensive Player of the Year, 100-1. And then, interesting here, Kwity Paye for Defensive Rookie of the Year is just 10-1.
Yeah, to me, it's a situation where I look at it, I think DeForest Buckner at 100-1 probably is the one that holds the most value, or Darius Leonard, because he's going to accumulate statistics playing linebacker. You're going to get a ton of tackles, so I think there's an opportunity for him there. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to go with Kwity Paye here at 10-1. I think his odds should be a little bit higher, but he could be effective for this Colts team. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think this is a team you got to really keep an eye out for.
When you look at the quarterbacks in this division, let's assume Deshaun Watson plays.
Okay,
let's just make that assumption. So you're looking at Trevor Lawrence, Carson Wentz, your guy Tannehill, and Deshaun Watson. Rank them 1 through 4.
Watson, Wentz, Tannehill, and Lawrence.
Where do you think Lawrence has the potential to be in that group?
A chance to be number 1.
Yeah.
That's why you drafted him number 1. I mean, this guy's supposed to be the savior. I like his disposition. You know what? The one thing I thought that was very underrated with Trevor Lawrence is his speed. I think he's a lot faster than people realize. We saw it in the national semis against Ohio State a couple of years ago. He had a couple of great runs, really impacted that team. I tell you, this selection of Travis Etienne, even though I'm not as big on Etienne, obviously, as I am Najee Harris, I love the pick of Etienne to go with Lawrence because of what they've been able to do for the last 3 years at Clemson.
I think it's important also for Urban Meyer to give him that flexibility because he's a run-first coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can use an extended running game because you can throw a lot of screen passes to Etienne.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Urban can get very creative offensively, and he,
except in that game against Michigan State in the rain in the horseshoe.
Don't even get me started. He ran J.T. Barrett more than ever. But to your point, he's been looking for that replacement of Percy Harvin that he had for those 3 years in Florida. If he can use Etienne, he doesn't obviously have the speed that Harvin had, but he's still a very fast guy. I think this team can be dangerous. And here's the other thing to me. The one thing that Jacksonville should be able to do is you should be able to bring in guys in free agency. You've got a coach in Urban. A lot of these players are going to know because he probably recruited them at some point in time. No state income tax there. Duval's got great support. That's the only professional team there. There's a lot of reasons why you should be able to bring in guys to play at Jacksonville.
I think this team is built very well and will give Carson Wentz a great opportunity to succeed, as well as being reunited with Frank Reich. We'll get a lot of questions answered about how good Carson Wentz is this year when you put him in this spot.
Absolutely. We're going to find out how good he is, and we'll also find out a little bit more about how good this Colts team can be.
Well, it's Christmas morning again here at VSiN because we've got the Home Run Derby. Amal, I know you're looking forward to it tonight from Coors. Let's take a look at the odds. Your number one seed. How about the seeding here? Does the seeding here make as much difference as tennis? You want to say the seeding makes no difference in tennis.
And it's the same thing here. It makes no difference. By the way, I just want to know how they threw in Trey Mancini and Salvador Perez. Do you ever think of Salvi Perez as a home run hitter?
No, I do not. Shohei Ohtani is your number one seed, and he's plus 250 to win the Derby. Of course, he's your home run leader this year with 33. Joey Gallo, plus 450 is the second choice. Pete Alonso at plus $5. Matt Olson, 525. Trevor Story's interesting. You get a little bit of an advantage here because he gets to hit in this park all the time at 8-1. Juan Soto, also 8-1. Salvi Perez is 10-1. And then Trey Mancini, the long shot, at 14-1. These odds brought to you via Bet Rivers.
Yeah, I saw Trevor Story earlier at 11-1. I thought that was not a bad shot. I think when you look at these things, outside of Mancini and Perez, you got to look at the long shots, whether it be Olson, Story, or Soto. Because in this thing, I really don't understand how they reach a conclusion of who to bet on. I mean, to me, it's an absolute crapshoot. Yes, Ohtani's got 33 homers. That's a lot different when you're hitting different types of pitches. This is just, whoever you deem the person that you want to throw you the baseball, you can knock out 20 bombs.
I think the hardest thing about this is just the stamina, right? Because you're taking so many swings and then you have to go through 4 rounds to do it. I think guys get tired. And so the ones that have the least energy type swings, the most compact swings, tend to do well here. Will you watch this tonight?
You already know the answer to that question.
Will you watch highlights of it at any point?
No.
Okay. I may. Depends on what I'm doing.
What is there to see highlights of? The guys hit home runs. We're going to have Chris Berman saying back when the balls hit 3 miles outside of course?
I like it with the kids making catches on the balls that are just short. Make sure to stay.
Yeah, if it's on Blake Street, I'll be interested.
Make sure to stay tuned to VSiN. Up next, Betting Across America.
Been thinking about McDonald's all day. Can't get it off my mind. I can already taste it. Ooh, got my mind on my mouth and my mouth ready for some Mickey D's deal.
There's a deal for every moment at McDonald's.
Right now, get 2 of your favorites for just $3.50. Mix and match a classic McChicken, a hot and spicy McChicken, or a juicy McDouble. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal. Single item at regular price.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, 3-time Pro Bowler LeVar Arrington, and I couldn't be more excited to announce a new podcast called Up On Game. What is Up On Game, you ask? Along with my fellow Pro Bowler, TJ Hushmanzada, and Super Bowl champion, yep, that's right, Plexico Burress. You can only name a show with that type of talent on it. Up On Game. We're going to be sharing our real-life experiences loaded with teachable moments. Listen to Up On Game with me, LeVar Arrington, TJ Hushmanzada, and Plexico Burress on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from.